Hello, welcome to English American Literature 2, Unit 13, Macbeth 3. In this unit, we have summarized the characters, themes, symbols and motifs, and the plot structure. Let's begin with the characters. The first character is Macbeth. He is the tragic hero and the protagonist of the play. He turns out to be a bloody tyrant throughout the play. The second significant character is Lady Macbeth. She is the tragic heroine. At the beginning, she is very ambitious. However, as Macbeth turns out to be a bloody tyrant, she becomes more distressed and she loses her stability. And finally, she commits suicide. The next one is the three witches. They are the supernatural powers beyond humans. They are so significant that they plant the first seeds of ambition in Macbeth's heart and they trick him by playing the language. The next one is Duncan. He is presented as the rightful king who is loved by his subjects. However, his poor sense of judgment brings his end. He cannot just foresee what Macbeth is going to become. The next one is Banquo. Banquo is presented as a noble soldier and he is also killed by Macbeth because he is thought of as a kind of threat for Macbeth's being the king. Now let's have a look at the minor characters and major ones. The major characters are Macduff, Malcolm and Hecate. Macduff is very significant because he is the one who kills Macbeth at the end. Malcolm is Duncan's son and he becomes the future king. And Hecate is the goddess of witches who plans the final trick on Macbeth. The minor characters are Donalbain, Fleance, Lennox, Ross, the murderers, Porter, Lady Macduff and her son. Now let's have a look at the themes. The first theme is the corrupting effect of ambition. Macbeth at the beginning of the play is presented as a noble soldier. He is also a very brave man. However, after hearing the witches and the prophecies, he just realizes that he is appointed as the future king by the witches. So when the first prophecy comes true, the prophecy that tells him that he is going to be the Thane of Cawdor, he just becomes very ambitious and wants to be the king. So he kills Duncan. Later, he kills so many people. So there is the corrupting effect of ambition in him. The next one is fear versus ambition. Although Macbeth wants to be the king and he kills Duncan, at the very beginning he is very afraid to kill the king because he thinks that it is not a noble act. However, after Lady Macbeth manipulates him, he just overcomes his fear and he becomes very ambitious. At the end, he is very afraid again, but he's so ambitious that he doesn't refrain from killing so many people around him. The next theme is the gender differences. From the beginning of the play until the middle especially, Lady Macbeth and Macbeth are juxtaposed by each other. Lady Macbeth, although she is a woman, is presented as a powerful female figure and she is presented as more masculine than Macbeth. Moreover, Macbeth is presented as a coward by Lady Macbeth. So their differences are revealed, especially until Lady Macbeth loses her mental stability. The next theme is the differences between kinship and tyranny. At the beginning of the play, we just learned that Duncan is a rightful king who distributes ranks among his subjects because he just values their service. So he is presented as a rightful king. However, Macbeth as a king is not rightful. He is just a tyrant and he doesn't listen to anyone and he doesn't value their ideas. At the end of the play, Malcolm is also presented as a rightful king who seems to be following the steps of his father. And the last one is the power of language. Power of language is so significant in the play that Macbeth is easily manipulated by the wordplays that the witches just employ. The witches tell him that he will not be defeated until the burning wood moves, but the burning wood really moves when the soldiers cut the branches. The next thing happens also when they just say that Macbeth is not going to be killed by a man born of a woman. And at the end we just learned that Macduff is untimely ripped of his mother's womb by cesarean. So power of language plays a significant role in the play. Now let's have a look at the symbols and motifs briefly. The most dominant symbol perhaps in the play is the blood. From the beginning to the end, we are just exposed to a bloody scene. The bloody dagger that Macbeth sees increases his tension. Later on, he kills Duncan, and when he kills Duncan, he just believes all the oceans of Neptune will never be able to clean the water from his hands. So blood is everywhere. Moreover, when Macbeth becomes a bloody tyrant, he just kills so many people that the whole scene seemed to be full of blood. The next symbol is the weather. Especially when Duncan is murdered, the world changes and nature responds to the unrightful murder of the king. So the changes in weather signify the fact that the human life is so turbulent that it is also reflected in the weather. And we have some motifs. One of them is the visions. From the beginning, Macbeth is disturbed by visions. He sees the vision of a bloody dagger. Later, he sees the ghost of Banquo. And when he meets the witches later, he sees the image, the visions of 8 kings who all resemble the descendants of Banquo. So visions are everywhere in the play. Lady Macbeth's final scene is also a kind of reference to the visions because she seems to see blood on her hands. The next one is violence. We have already talked about violence. Macbeth is a very, very violent play. From the beginning to the end, we have battles, fights, and murders. The next one is prophecy. Prophecy is another motif because the play opens with the witches, and later we just learn that the witches have some prophecies for Macbeth, and these prophecies foreshadow first Macbeth's ambition, later how he is going to be defeated by his ambition. And the last motif is the birds. From the beginning to the end, several characters are identified with birds. Their bravery, their courage are all identified with different kinds of birds. Moreover, the enemies of Duncan are also resembled to small birds who are not courageous enough. And finally, when we come to the plot structure, the play has a triangular plot structure. At the beginning, the characters are introduced. We learn what kind of a character Macbeth is and how brave he is, and it is also signaled that he is going to change. We also learn that Lady Macbeth is a very ambitious woman and she will have a powerful influence on Macbeth. We also learn that Duncan is a rightful king. The conflict is, will Macbeth kill Duncan or not, but Lady Macbeth's manipulations work and he decides to kill Duncan, and in the climax he murders Duncan. The rest of the play is the following action. Until there, we see the witches manipulating Macbeth by telling him some prophecies. They make him quite confident that he will not be defeated. But this is a false prophecy because they play with the language and they trick Macbeth. However, at the end, Macbeth is killed by Macduff, who is not born of a woman. He was taken out of the womb of his mother, and Malcolm is restored to the throne, and the order is established at the end of the play.